UN General Assembly recognized African Institute for Culture and Ecology, AFRIS, a local NGO for its efforts on protection of rights of nature, using indigenous knowledge to revive indigenous seed that are eroding away because of genetic modified foods. According to a report released by United Nations General Assembly on the 28th of July 2022, titled Harmony with Nature Report of the Secretary General recognizes Uganda as the first nation on the African continent to recognize the rights of nature at national legislation. UBC team visited African Institute for Culture and Ecology offices in Lungu Jaluwaga Division here in Kampala and had a chat with Dennis Tabaro, Executive Director of AFRIS, to share with him the insights about this milestone.
Thank you. I'm glad to host you and meet and discuss with you. My name is Tabaro Dennis Nathunda. I am the Executive Director of African Institute for Culture and Ecology. AFRIS is located here in Kampala, but it is a community-based organization which was formed way back about 6 years ago. And we work with communities, more especially those indigenous communities who are entrenched in their cultures for conserving food, nature, and what you would call general environment. And we work with the communities in Bulisa, along Lake Albert, and we also work with communities along Lake Edward, the Banyabutumbi, in Arukunjiri along Lake Edward, and we also work with the communities in Karangara along Lake Victoria. Yeah. Basically, promote the conservation of environment, especially conserving the natural environment, that is rivers, lakes, forests, and other forms of the natural environment. And we accompany these organizations, communities, who are trying to conserve nature using their traditional knowledge systems. This is an area that is less talked about in Uganda, but we must know that from way back before colonialism, our communities used their indigenous knowledge, indigenous practices or traditional practices to conserve environment. They also used their traditional knowledge, or what we can call indigenous knowledge, to protect food. They used to have their traditional food, their traditional seeds, or indigenous seeds, which are very, very essential to their lives and also to nature. The indigenous foods, which you see, for example, our indigenous seeds, they are nutritional, they are resistant to droughts and diseases and pests. They are also culturally important, and they are also very, very important in times of drought and scarcity. But they have been, over time, suffered a loss because of what is being introduced as hybrid seeds, the genetically modified seeds, and as a result, our communities are suffering. They are not getting real foods which are rich in nutrients, which are culturally important, and that's why we came in to work with these communities to build their confidence and tell them that what you used to do, your ancestors, your grandfathers and grandmothers, what they were using was very, very important. And we also uh, work with these communities, as I have already said, which conserve rivers, forests, lakes, and the wildlife. They do it through their traditional knowledge systems, their traditional practices. For example, in Bulisa where we are working, the Wagungu community have got rich practices for conserving biodiversity or conserving nature. They have got places which are ecologically and spiritually sensitive to them. Those places are called sacred natural sites. They are places nobody goes to do anything. No human activity is allowed in such places. And because they have been able to conserve them, they have been able to protect them, that's why you find different species of plants, species of animals, birds, insects are all found in those areas. So that is something that we found that is very, very important. And if this kind of knowledge can be revived, can be strengthened, then we can see a change in the way how our resources or our natural wealth is protected. During our journey in these years, we have registered success. But maybe I will first talk about the challenges with this kind of approach, which we call community ecological governance. When colonialism set in Africa, the first thing they castigated was African traditional cultures. And then they introduced a foreign culture in form of education, in form of religion, in form of technology. Yes, some of these are very important because of technology. The technology is very important. But still, we could have developed further using our technology coming up to this. But what was very sad was the castigating the traditional culture and knowledge. And now the introduction of religion. I am a religious person myself, but I want to admit that religion has done much harm in castigating our cultures which have been important in conserving nature, our cultures which have been important in conserving our food. You look at what is happening. The indigenous seeds have disappeared just because we want seeds which will grow very fast, and we want people no longer want to weed. They use chemicals, and these chemicals are destroying soil and all sorts of biodiversity. So the challenges we have had is that the footsteps of colonialism, that is education and religion, are castigating this form of culture and the indigenous knowledge. Secondly, the introduction of these new seed varieties and GMOs, genetically modified seeds, they are exterminating our indigenous seeds. And because people now want to get money so fast, they want to get quick yields. They plant these some of these seeds, the hybrids. I'm not saying the hybrids are totally bad, but they have got some problems with them. So people are hesitant to keep their indigenous seeds because they take some of them. They say they take long to mature. They take long to give them money. So when you are talking about indigenous traditional farming practices, people want to rush and do and do the industrial farming. But I think the global discussion now is talking about communities to strengthen their indigenous knowledge systems, and I think this will be very important. So regarding our successes, one of them is that we have worked with communities. I said we work with now in the southwestern Uganda and southeastern Uganda in Burisa, that is the Arbatine region. We also work in Rukunjiri with the Banyabutumbi. Those are indigenous communities living near Lake Edward and Queen Elizabeth National Park. And those people are very rich in their cultures, and they have been able to conserve their seeds, traditional seeds, and also they attach much culture on their farming systems. The same way the Bagungu of Burisa, how they do it, they attach much cultural knowledge in conserving their environment, in conserving nature, conserving their natural wealth. So we have been able to work with those communities, and for example, in Burisa, the communities have been able to document their knowledge systems, their traditional laws that govern, for example, fishing, the laws that govern management of forests, management of rivers, and also management of food. They have been able to document them. They have it, and then they presented these documentations and laws to the Burisa district local government. And about 2 years ago, the Burisa local government recognized the traditional governing systems of the Bagungu, and later on it developed an ordinance. We supported this ordinance together with the ANAD, that is Advocates for Natural Resource Management and Development, that is ANAD. It is a local organization here also whom we have worked with, and a foreign organization called Gaia. So we supported the process of making the ordinance, and now the government is about to sanction it for its implementation. And for us, if this ordinance is passed by the Attorney General government, office, and it is implemented, then we shall see how the sacred natural sites, as I have already said. By the way, you need to know what we mean by sacred natural sites. Sacred natural sites are sensitive ecological and spiritual areas within a landscape. They are in form of rivers, they are in form of forests, and in form of trees. where nobody goes. They are protected by what we call custodians. Those are elders who have got that kind of knowledge. So you do not go in a forest and cut any tree like anyhow you want. You do not go and pick or plant anything there, or you go and dig. So those places have been conserved. We call them sacred natural sites. So this ordinance is looking at protecting sacred natural sites. And to us, when those sites are protected, then we know that what we call biodiversity or nature is being protected. So that is a big milestone to us, and we think this is something that can be replicated to other districts. We have started a similar process in Karangara. We are starting a similar process in Rukunjiri to make sure that these places are protected, because when they are protected, we know that all forms of biodiversity are protected. Then another achievement is the revival or bringing back the lost seeds. In Rukunjiri, the Banyabutumbi have recovered about 7 seed varieties which had got lost, and now they have got what we call a community seed learning center. At this community seed learning center, we have got elders. They come, they bring those seeds that they have now recovered. They plant them. They use all the processes of breeding, seed breeding, intercropping, using local manure, using local concoctions for pests control, and then they produce more seeds, and then they share with the rest of the communities. And as we talk, those communities around Chikarara, they no longer get seeds from government. I mean, to relax and wait for government to provide them with seeds. So to us, that is a very, very big achievement. As AFRIS, we are part of a bigger network of Africans who are applying what is called as jurisprudence. As jurisprudence is a theory and a practice that asserts that nature has got rights. It's not only human beings, but also non-human beings have rights. Where the human beings get their rights, that's where the other non-human beings get their rights. For example, a tree has got rights. A river has got rights. An animal has got its rights to evolve, to reproduce, to live in a comfortable habitat. So the as jurisprudence concept says that the current laws have emphasized the human rights, but other non-human beings have got rights. And in order for us to have a worthwhile earth for living in, we must get our laws from the Mother Earth. And that's what as jurisprudence talks about. I want to call upon the government. I want to call upon the media houses the journalists, whoever is concerned with the conservation of nature, conservation of rights of nature. By the way, I want to tell you that AFRIS has been recognized by the United Nations General Assembly in its report of 28th July 2022. We have been recognized as people who are promoting the rights of nature, and for us that is a big milestone. So I'm calling upon the government to support indigenous communities and local communities who are trying to revive their knowledge systems, because this is the way how we shall face or address the effects of climate change. I also want to call the media to visit us, or as we have done, so that we can talk more about indigenous knowledge systems, about our indigenous seeds, about our indigenous ways of living, and because that is the restoration of our indigenous culture in promoting our livelihoods, conserving our food, and conserving our nature.